This is the Talking Sports podcast hosted by Peter DiBiasi and John Rocco Trumpbour right here on YouTube. Guys, welcome back to another episode on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. We appreciate you guys clicking on this video and we appreciate you watching us. Guys, if you haven't checked out our most recent video, that's an NBA trade deadline video. We break down a lot of the NBA trades that just happened in the past week or so. And if you guys want to check that out and drop a like and comment on that, that would be awesome. But this video is surrounded by NFL and the NFL coaches, the 9 coaches that were just hired in the National Football League. But before we get into that, Jerry, got a couple of messages for our viewers.
Yes, guys, if you're watching this, please subscribe. Really appreciate it. We're trying to, get to that 1,500 mark now, subscribers. Also, don't forget, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Talking Sports PD. We're posting content weekly, I'd say. So if you want to see what we're up to, see new videos when they come out, please follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, guys. Also, if you, like I said earlier, if you want to listen on Apple Podcasts, if you're on the go, that would be appreciated. If you also want to drop a 5-star rating, that would be awesome. But our main source is YouTube, and YouTube comments and likes would be awesome. Guys, this video, obviously you clicked on, we're going to be grading the NFL head coaches. Jared, I don't think we've ever done a grading video before.
Yeah, I've always seen it on like Bleacher Report, but we've never
you go to Bleacher Report articles and says NFL coaches or trades or any kind of like acquisition that happens in sports, they give a grade or they give like their opinion. We've never really done that. We've given our opinions, but we're actually going to give you a letter grade. It's going to be exactly like math and English class. You're going to get a letter grade. We have 9 NFL head coaches that were hired this off season, and obviously it's every year. It's about 6 to 8 coaches usually. And we're just going to break down. We're not going to go crazy in depth on them, but we'll give a quick kind of recap of to why we grade them and if we think we like to hire or not. And you can probably tell that based off our grade. Before we start, I'm going to list off the 9 coaches just so you guys have them. Josh McDaniels, Las Vegas Raiders. Brian Daboll to the New York Giants. Mike McDaniel to the Dolphins. Nathaniel Hackett to the Broncos. Doug Pederson to the Jaguars. Matt Eberflus to the Bears. Kevin O'Connell to the Vikings, Lovie Smith to the Texans, and then Dennis Allen to the Saints. We're going to start at the top. We're going to start with Josh McDaniels getting his second coaching gig, which is usually your last if you fail. You usually don't get a third. It's usually 2 and done if you fail in your second one. He failed in his first in Denver. Josh McDaniels to the Las Vegas Raiders. JR, give me your grade and give me a quick reason why you're giving him that grade.
All right, I'll give you like my reason, then I'll give you my grade right after that. So I think he's a great offensive coordinator. Obviously, he's a questionable head coach, like we saw in the Broncos stem and all that, the cheating scandal, stuff like that. But I'm not hoping, but for his sake, he's hoping that he learned from his second stint with the Patriots, learned under Belichick, and I'm giving him a B+. I really think if Derek Carr stays, I think Derek Carr is one of the most underrated quarterbacks. I think Josh McDaniels could do a great job at not developing him because he's already developed, but just progressing his career and getting to that next step. Even if they could add more pieces on the offense, because I wasn't a fan of that offense, the weapons on that offense, besides Darren Waller, of course. But they could get like another really good receiver, maybe get the offensive line boosted a little bit. I think this could be a dangerous offense and definitely in playoff. They're always going to be in playoff contention because if they keep Derek Carr, but they could maybe make a run in the playoffs. So I think he has a really good opportunity here in LA. I give him a B+ on that.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't obviously hate it. I know you know that I'm a little.
Yeah, you don't like him.
Less. I don't like him. I don't know. That's not that I don't like him. I just think that he has flaws. Josh McDaniels obviously failed in Denver. We all know that. Obviously, he had some cheating scandals around that. He also kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth. I'm not a Colts fan, but that Colts situation, and I think Jared remembers that.
Yeah,
when he was hired and then or rumored to be hired, was going to go to his press conference and then he backed out.
It was like Belichick leaving the Jets after a day.
Yeah, and it was also there was rumors that Belichick was like, you know what, McDaniels, you stay here. You're going to be you're going to take over.
Head coach,
yeah. Obviously, that's not happening. He took Las Vegas because I guess Belichick's not retiring anytime soon. But the Patriots coaching tree or Bill Belichick's recent coaching tree isn't incredible. Obviously Matt Patricia wasn't good. Brian Flores didn't get a job, should have a job, and obviously that's a different situation now for all the stuff that's going on with him. but strictly coaching, he should have a job. But I guess the one good thing with Josh McDaniels, and I guess some of the reasons I'm going to give lower grades to other coaches, is that he calls plays. And I think that's huge. When a coach calls plays, it kind of it shows that like he has knowledge. And I'm not saying he doesn't have knowledge if he don't call plays, but like it shows that he's involved in the game plan.
Experience, like
he's like the top guy on that offense. So I'm gonna give Josh McDaniels. I kind of teetered between a C+ and a B-. So I'm gonna go B- on Josh McDaniels. I'll round up from a 79.8 to the 80, and I'll give him the B-. I'll be nice. Some teachers are usually not nice, but I'll be nice. I'll give him the round up to a B-. Look, I think that's a fair grade. I think it's smack in the middle. I think it's basically an average higher. I think there's plus sides, but there's also we've seen past things that can come out back again. So I think a B- is kind of like right in the middle, right, literally not far behind you. Just a B separates us.
Yeah, I respect that.
Okay. Yeah, B-, B+. So that's what we thought. And also, guys, if you're one of these teams that just hired a coach and you want to give a grade, or if you want to drop a grade on any of these coaches, feel free to do that. It's in the comment section. We'll definitely respond. We like to respond to some comments to show you guys our appreciation. I'm going to stick with Brian Daboll. I'll start with it because obviously I'm a Bills fan and he was my OC for the last handful of years. Brian Daboll signed to the New York Giants, and man, the New York Giants need to have a stable head coach. They've gone through McAdoo, Shermer, and then Joe Judge, which was something. That was something. So I think, and I'm happy the Giants went actually in the offensive direction. I know Joe Judge was a special teams guy, more of a defense. And I think Brian Daboll, also bringing in Whit Martindale, the former DC of the Ravens, as his DC, I think a veteran guy. I think that's going to be important. And I do think, look, Brian Daboll did great things with Josh Allen, had a great offense, but he also called plays. And I think that was huge. And he's starting to build a culture. And I think the Giants need a guy that's stable. I think the Giants actually could have went either Brian Flores or Brian Daboll. I think both would have been good hires. And I think I would have gave the same round grade to Brian Daboll. Look, he's an OC. And I think he's a young OC, and we kind of seen that trend in the NFL where young OCs get jobs. So I'm going to give Brian Daboll an A-. I think it might be a little high. I don't know. It's obviously it's not an A or it's an A+, but I think Brian Daboll was, I think, the good hire, and I think the Giants made the right hire. You know what I mean? Like they didn't go crazy. They made the guy that everybody thought they were going to make. Does that always mean it's going to be a good hire? No, but they didn't go crazy bold. They went the guy that almost got the Chargers job last year. And obviously he's going to be tasked with either developing Daniel Jones, which I don't know if that's what he wants to do, or bringing in a young quarterback. And I think if you're bringing in a young quarterback, I think Brian Daboll is probably the right guy to do it. So I think Brian Daboll with that, his experience with Josh Allen, his experience in a good culture now with the Buffalo with Sean McDermott, will bring that over. And I'll give him an A-. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think it's a good hire for the Giants. Like you said, they desperately needed experience at the head coaching job after the Joe Judge stunt, a young special teams coach. But I think this is a good hire. He has experience under his belt. He's been on a top offense in the league. And like you said, he developed Josh Allen after his first year. He struggled a little bit, and now you see where Josh Allen is. So I think that's huge for his resume there. And yeah, we could see what he does with Daniel Jones. Hopefully, I think they're gonna keep Daniel Jones. So I'm pretty sure the GM of the Giants or owner said they kind of ruined Daniel Jones. Is their fault. So maybe they'll try to
owner John Mara did.
Yeah, so maybe they'll try to keep him and see what Brian Daboll could do. But yeah, Bills great on offense last year. Like you said, Brian Flores or Brian Daboll. I think Brian Daboll is the better option just because you have a young quarterback. Your offense, you have Saquon Barkley if he stays on the field, or if they're keeping him, who knows. But I think they have right tools on the offensive side that Brian Daboll could do some damage with that. I actually gave him an A more than you. But yeah, I really like the hire. They needed stability, and they needed like a great offensive mind. So yeah, I got an A for them.
I like it. We're kind of in the same ballpark. And I kind of forgot about Joe Judge when I mentioned the Bill Belichick failed coaching.
Yeah.
I said Patricia.
He's on the tree.
And I meant, yeah, Joe Judge is probably maybe him and Patricia. Well, that's a fun bunch of
Belichick doesn't produce good coaches.
No, because especially on the defense, because he runs the defense. That's why I
Yeah.
think the McDaniels is better than because he runs the offense.
Yeah.
Another guy that's going to be running the offense, that's going to be Mike McDaniel. He was hired from the San Francisco 49ers to the Miami Dolphins. Jer, we'll start off with you again, man. Give me your thoughts on the McDaniel hire to Miami.
Yeah. So Mike McDaniel, obviously, he's under the Kyle Shanahan tree, who's actually has pretty good coaches come out of there. As my Jets have Robert Saleh. But my big thing with Mike McDaniel is, like you were saying, he didn't call plays. And Kyle Shanahan's a great not offensive coordinator, but offensive mind. So I don't know like where it's Shanahan and where it's McDaniel. So I don't have a lot of like faith and trust that he could just create a good offense after just being the OC without calling plays. Who knows? He can. Maybe he learned a lot. Maybe he knows obviously he knows everything that's going on in the play calling probably, but I just don't know the experience there. So that scares me if I was a fan of the Dolphins. And also he's heavily in the run game. So you've Tua Tagovailoa. How much can he develop a quarterback if he's heavy on the run? That's another question for me. So I gave it a B. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. I mean, B's pretty good, I'd say. So I do, because of Shanahan, I think he has the potential of being good, but I just don't see it from his experience for me. So I give him a B. I didn't go any higher, but it's still a pretty good grade.
I say B. That's way better than I gave him. He was my, a little spoiler, my lowest graded head coach.
Oh, wow.
Look, his press conference, and I don't want to read into his press conference, and like that was really weird. He seems like a weird guy. I don't know how I'm saying this. I don't want to offend anybody. It just seemed unnatural to try to make a funny guy, try not to be himself. And I feel like every time a coach tries not to be himself, like it just doesn't go well. Like Joe Judge tried to be Belichick. Like you're not Belichick. Like
be yourself.
Super Bowls and Super Bowls. But forget about that. Mike McDaniel, I agree. Like he didn't. I think we kind of have the same reasons. You just gave it a little higher grade. I gave him a C minus. And I think he didn't call plays, right? And I think just because, he doesn't call plays, but like Shanahan is one of the best offensive guys in the league. Like that's his thing. And I think because of that, like Kyle Shanahan's like the vocal point in that offense. McDaniel obviously has to say, but like, I don't think he does as much as people think. I think it's mostly Shanahan. And the difference between him and Saleh, like Saleh was the defense.
Yeah, I know.
That was him and his defense. Obviously, Shanahan had input because he's the head coach, but probably like Saleh, you know what? If it's your call, it's your call because you're the defense. Obviously, a head coach can come in and he's the head coach. But I think Shanahan's like, this is my offense, and that's how I'm good around it. The good thing with McDaniel is that he was under Shanahan.
So he learned, That's why I gave him that B,
But not being like the vocal point in that offense, not really like having, I get the passing game was good. I do think the offense was a little overrated as well. Like, I think Shanahan's really good, and I think he had a really good year. But going into this year, he's like been really inconsistent as a head coach. And I think I don't think this is a splashy hire. Like, what do they do like with Tua and like all that stuff? Like, I don't really see this as a great hire. Like, there's nothing that really flies off the board to me. Look, he's young. He's a young OC. People love those, but they don't always work. And I think he's inexperienced and just in a tough division now. You have to place the Bills. The Jets are hopefully for your sake are on the rise. Obviously, the Patriots made the playoffs, and I think he might have the worst quarterback in that division right now, and obviously that has an effect. But I'm going to give him a C minus. Not my favorite. I didn't fail anybody or I didn't give him a D, but I think a C minus is a proper grade for me.
No, I kind of we have the same points. Just I gave him a little more just because of the potential.
You were nicer. That's what you said.
Nice, yeah.
Okay, I'll stick it with me with Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett, the Green Bay Packers OC. Moving on to Denver. And look, I have a similar situation. This is really similar to the Mike McDaniel thing, JR. Look, he was the OC under Matt LaFleur, and we know Matt LaFleur is like Shanahan and McVay, like young head coach that runs the offense. And I think Nathaniel Hackett doesn't call plays. There was nothing really special about this hire for me, and I think it's really similar to McDaniel. I guess the good thing is he played with Aaron Rodgers, but like Aaron Rodgers is in Denver. He might be in Denver, but at the time we're recording, he's not in Denver. So I don't really know unless he just comes out like tomorrow, like he's in Denver. I don't know. That's not even how it's gonna work. But you know what I mean? Like he's not in Denver. He's not gonna have that Aaron Rodgers type of quarterback. And obviously Denver's been struggling for a quarterback. I just don't see anything great with this hire. It scares me when you hire an OC as a head coach that doesn't really call plays and that the head coach is so focused on offense. Like that is his thing. That freaks me out a little if you're hiring him. Like that's why I gave Brian Daboll the hire because Sean McDermott's a defensive head coach. He was a DC in Carolina, and then he runs the defense, or that's his main focus. So Daboll was tasked with the offense. I think because of that, I think Nathaniel Hackett, I'm going to give him a C. I'm going to give him a little higher than McDaniel. Do I have a really good reason? Probably not. But I think Hackett, McDaniel kind of scream kind of similar higher. Bet you one of them works out. I think Hackett might have a better shot. But if they find because I think he's a better roster. And obviously
better, and that's
and obviously that's not affecting our coaching hire, but that's going to be like how they perform on the field is just like how long he's going to be in job for. So I give Hackett a C.
No, I actually gave him a C minus here. I did him a lot worse than McDaniel. Just for reasons like you said, he is Matt LaFleur. He's not really calling plays. And then, like you said, Aaron Rodgers is not in Denver. And I feel like a lot of his success in Green Bay, I mean, you have Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. So, yes, your offenses should be like top 5 in the league. And if it's not, you got some problems. But I think that Denver honestly might have done this to kind of persuade maybe Aaron Rodgers to sign in Denver. And I don't think that's how you should hire a head coach because he doesn't.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So, yeah, I give him a C minus here. I think McDaniel's not in a better situation, but has better future. And I don't think Hackett is going to pan out. So,
yeah, I think we have similar reasons. I give a C, you give a C minus. JR, the Jacksonville Jaguars, did they finally nail their hire? What do you think?
I think, yes, this was one of the best signings for head coaches this offseason. I mean, he's won a Super Bowl in the last 4 years, I think 4 or 5 years. And he's huge with like development quarterbacks. He's worked with like McNabb, Michael Vick, Alex Smith, and he's had a 42-37-1 record in his last 5 seasons. I think he could be crucial in the development of Trevor Lawrence because last year really hurt him. So I think second year, I mean, this guy was really talented, really high potential. I think he is big in this Trevor Lawrence development. Yeah, that's also that word. But development, and that's like the main focus of that Jaguars franchise right now. And I just think he's a good NFL mind. He knows what he's doing. He's been there before. He's shown success. I think this is one of the best hires. I'm giving him an A.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love the Doug Pederson. I only give one guy an A or an A minus, and that was Brian Daboll.
Oh, okay.
So I think, look, Doug Pederson, I think the Jaguars didn't go a flashy hire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great thing. You're a franchise that's an absolute mess. They won 2 games, 3 games, 2 games. I want to say
2, I believe.
They won 2. Okay, they won 2 games.
I think.
But the biggest thing is you have a quarterback they just picked number 1 that was compared to like John Elway and Peyton Manning coming out of the draft.
Yeah,
and those aren't guys. Those are 2 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks and 2 Hall of Famer and great quarterbacks. So Trevor Lawrence has a lot of potential, and I think we saw the potential, but we also saw the failure with Urban Meyer. This is similar hire to Urban Meyer in the sense, give me a second, in the sense of that it's a veteran coach. It's just a veteran coach, but it has done it in the NFL. There's a difference. Urban Meyer did it in the college. Obviously, he sucked in the NFL. Like, he was horrible. Great college coach. Nobody's going to deny that. Won national championships with Ohio State and Florida. Won 3 actually in total. But Doug Pederson has success, like Jared said, 42-37-1, developed some nice quarterbacks. We also forgot Carson Wentz. I know Carson Wentz isn't a bona fide quarterback, but he's a starter in the NFL, and he was good. He had an MVP year, Jared, in 2017. I want to say 2018.
It was the year I think they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you're right. It was. Yeah, was that? Yeah. I forgot the year. And he won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles
against Tom Brady.
And Nick Foles ain't good. Nick Foles is nothing really special. I think, look, he got fired from the Eagles, and obviously the Eagles made the playoffs this past year. Should he have been fired from the Eagles?
I have
I
a
get I get his time ran out and all that stuff, and that may be more of the GM trying to save his job and trying to do that because the GM has a lot of problems drafting like wide receivers, and we can obviously we can actually make an episode about the Jets, not the Jets, excuse me, the Eagles missing on wide receivers in the draft. Like there's like a 30-minute episode you can make, but forget about that. Doug Pederson, I'm giving him a B-. I like the hire. It's a similar hire I gave to Josh McDaniel. It's better than Hackett, better than McDaniel, a step down from Mr. Daboll. And I think this is going to show that, like, I don't think he's a flashy hire, but I think he's a guy that's going to help develop. Trevor Lawrence knows how to win a Super Bowl, which is huge for Jacksonville. And they need to bring back winning. And I think a veteran guy in the locker room and a guy that's been there and has done that in the NFL is going to be great for the young Jaguars. So I'm going to give Doug Pederson a B-.
You brought up when he got like fired from the Eagles. My thoughts on that is look at the roster when he got fired. He had Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is bad. I'm just saying it's a different more of a West what?
I know 100%.
Yeah, it was more of like a West Coast style offense. And you saw the success he had with Carson Wentz. And now like who's Trevor Lawrence more similar to? I'd say Carson Wentz. He's obviously more like athletic, but he's more of a sit down, like gun it. So I think he'll have success with a guy like that. So.
No, I completely agree. We're going to stick it with me. Chicago Bears kind of went an interesting hire. Matt Eberflus. I can never say his name. I don't know why. We're just going to have that coach that I can't say the name. He was hired from the Colts as the DC. Look, was this a flashy hire? No. Did the Bears go away from the norm of hiring like an offensive head coach like McDaniels, Daboll, McDaniel, Hackett, and Pederson, all offensive guys? Like he's one of the only couple of DCs that got hired. And the Colts have always had good defenses. You have obviously DeForest Buckner, Darius Leonard. The Colts are always a solid team. Does this scream like flashiness? No. Is that a bad thing? No. The one thing that scares me, JR, is the fact that they have a young quarterback in Justin Fields that they just took in the first round. And obviously they took him in the first round to be their franchise quarterback for a long time. And there's a lot of potential there for Justin Fields. Can he be the guy to develop Fields? Because obviously that's going to be his, like, what keeps him long-term in Chicago or doesn't. Like if Fields turns into a bust, usually the coach that developed him is usually out the window. They don't give him a second chance with another young quarterback. I'm going to give Matt Eberflus a C+. I love his defense, and I think Chicago loves defense. Like that's like always been Chicago's thing. Great defense. Hopefully he can develop for the Chicago Bears' sake, Justin Fields. But look, he's a defensive guy, so I have no idea. And I have no idea if he's going to be able to have the staff around Justin Fields. With that problem, I kind of stayed away from a B or a B-. I'm going to give him a C+. Great defensive guy, good defensive mind. But obviously offense wins in the NFL. I'm just afraid it could be like a Vic Fangio situation in Denver. Like great defenses just can never develop the quarterback.
No, I definitely agree with you here. I think he's one of the best defensive coaches, I'd say, in the league. The past 2 seasons, he's the only team or the only unit to have a top 10 scoring defense, have a top 10 rushing defense, and have a top 10 in takeaways. It's the only defensive unit that accomplished that. So I do think he's one of the best defensive coaches in the league. But like the points you brought up, so the Bears defense is going to be good. They've been really good the past 5-6 years. But the question goes to the offense. Like you said, they just drafted Justin Fields. Offense struggled last year. They have been having offensive problems. Obviously, they just had Matt Nagy, who was an offensive coach. But maybe try to bring in another young offensive coordinator somewhere and try to help develop Justin Fields a little bit. Because at the end of the day, that's probably your future. Your defense maybe has a 2 to 3 year window being really good. Maybe they're even past that, but Justin Fields is going to be your future. Quarterbacks are very important. So hopefully maybe he brings in a really good offensive coordinator, help develop Justin Fields. But to your points, we understand he's a really good defensive coordinator, really good defensive coach. So that's not the issue. He's a really good coach in that sense, but because of the situation in Chicago, I'm giving him a B. not because of him personally, just because of the situation he's in and what they brought him in to. I don't know. Just, they have a young quarterback, like you said, and the situation isn't for him, in my opinion. He should be at a place like maybe the Raiders where they have a Derek Carr and then get that defense going. But yeah, I'm gonna give him a B.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Jared, Kevin O'Connell, LA Rams offensive coordinator. Minnesota
Yeah,
Vikings just hired him. Jared, what are your thoughts on the Kevin O'Connell hire?
my thing's similar to Matt Eberflus. I think with the Vikings, the offense wasn't really their problem. They finished 30th in defense last year, giving up 383 yards per game. So that's a main problem with me. It's like the situation might not be for him. They need maybe Eberflus would have fit better here, and Kevin O'Connell would fit better in the Bears.
Yeah.
Chicago, yeah. And also, I'm pretty sure McVay calls the plays, correct? So
I'm going to go on a limb and say McVay has pretty good stance on what to do in the offense.
So, yeah, like that's another situation where we're both not a fan of an offense coordinator that doesn't call plays, getting a head coaching job right away. And this is not even an official hire yet, so we're just going on a limb here. And Adam Schefter's reported, but I don't know. This is another one of those ones where I don't know if he fits at the Vikings just because they don't really necessarily need offense. I mean, offense could help, doesn't hurt, but I think their defense was the problem this year. And I'm sure McVay's coaching tree so far, not tree, but just some of the assistant coaches that have left, they've had some success other places. So I'm going to put that in my evaluation, and I'm giving him a C+ here.
You nailed it on the head. I'm giving him a C+ as well. I think I gave him a little higher than Hackett, who I gave a C, and McDaniel, who I gave a C-. And man, I'm being tough on these grades. I've gotten a lot of tough grades. I didn't love the head coaching hires.
Just wait for my next two. I'll say that.
Oh, geez, those are interesting. But I didn't love the head coaching hires this offseason. I think there was a ton of good coaches left on the table. We don't have to get into that situation. Kevin O'Connell, C+. I think I give him a step ahead Hackett, and I give him a step ahead McDaniel because he's also going into a better situation, especially on offense. There, Kirk Cousins, you can say what you want about him. Like he's a top 15 quarterback in the NFL, and like those are hard to get in the NFL. He's not going to win you a championship, but he's darn good. Like he's a good quarterback. Like there's nothing wrong with that. You have Dalvin Cook, who you could argue top 5 running back in the NFL, and then Justin Jefferson, who's a bona fide stud on the outside. And then someone that doesn't get talked about enough, Adam Thielen. Like Adam Thielen's a great receiver. So he's a great offense. His defense is a little iffy. If he can fix that, I think the Vikings are going to be actually a really good team next year and have a chance to go for a wild card spot. I give him a C+ because he didn't call plays, but I think I trust the McVay system a little more than I trust the LaFleur and I trust the Shanahan system. So for that reason, I'm going to give him a C+. Look, I think it's a similar situation as the Mike McDaniel and Nathaniel Hackett in Denver and in Miami. But I think I like O'Connell a little more. And I just think he's in a better situation. And obviously that's not his choice, but I think good hire by Minnesota. Give him a C+. I think if he called plays, he could be a B- and B+. And I think those guys would be higher. I don't know if you agree, Jeff. McDaniel and Hackett called plays. Do you think those would be a little higher?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's kind of my reasoning. So we both agree on the C+. Final 2 head coaches, guys. Thank you so much for sticking along with us for this episode. We really appreciate a like and really appreciate a comment and a subscribe if you don't mind. Lovie Smith, Houston Texans. I'm gonna keep it with me. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, I have no idea what to say. Look, he went to a Super Bowl with Chicago, but that was middle of the earlier 2000s. So we're talking about we're in 2022. Excuse me, we're in 2022 right now. He was their DC in Houston this year. It sounds like me, and I don't want to say like I want to come out in the wrong way, that Houston couldn't find anybody. And there's nothing against Lovie Smith because I think he's a good NFL mind, and I think he seems like a great guy, and I think he's done good things in the NFL as a DC. And he wasn't horrible. he was pretty bad in college at Illinois, but I don't think he could recruit. And obviously, college is different than NFL. We can see that for both sides. I'm going to give him a C. I think I don't want to be harsher than that because I think it's similar to the Doug Pederson, but a little less in the sense that like he's a veteran guy. He's been there and he's done this and he knows how to coach in the NFL. I just hope that this wasn't a coach for Lovie Smith's sake. And I think for the NFL's sake that like they didn't just hire him because they couldn't find anyone else because nobody wanted that Houston job. So I'm going to give him a C. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's been a successful head coach in the NFL. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Houston's awful. So he might be a scapegoat again, which sucks because David Culley should not have been fired, I thought David Culley having that team with four wins, and I think that was a success.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, 4 wins. Well, the Houston's horrible. Like,
they're so bad.
Horrible. And Davis Mills started progressing, like really good as the season went on. And I didn't think you wanted to mess with that. And if you were going to fire Culley and then hire Lovie Smith, just kept David and Culley. This is more of a Houston just being not a good franchise because I think you were better off just keeping Culley. It's not like you want to get Brian Flores or Daboll or like McDaniels. And you're like, oh, makes sense. You stayed in-house with Lovie Smith. In-house, who was under Culley's staff. Like, it makes no sense why they hired him, except for the fact that they couldn't find anyone else. So I'm going to give him a C. Houston. I don't know. Sorry, Houston fans.
Houston, we got a problem.
Houston, we got a problem.
No, but I'm going with you, and I'm going to say, like, yes, I don't think they could have found anyone. They could find anyone. I mean, think about it. Josh McCown, no head coaching experience, was a finalist for their head coaching job.
But Jared, sorry to interrupt. He was also he only interviewed for Houston.
Yeah,
it wasn't like you interviewed at Houston.
There's a reason for that because Vikings, no other teams are going to be like, okay,
the Jaguars, the Broncos, like they should have won Brian Flores, but I don't think Brian Flores wanted the job.
Oh, I don't think so either.
I would take the job if someone.
I mean, yeah, I'd take the job, but like, I wouldn't want the job.
He's making a good amount of money, $4 or $5 million, and Lovie Smith at the end of his career. But no, keep going. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, like you're also saying they went in-house for this job. I mean, Houston's defense sucked last year, and this guy was a defensive coordinator. They were 31st in the league, giving up 384 yards a game.
But Jared, they went in-house to a guy that they just fired.
Yeah, I know.
He went from a staff. Like they took a guy from his staff that Culley brought in. Like you didn't like Culley, but you liked his DC.
Yeah, and meanwhile the defense sucked.
No, it makes no sense. It means they couldn't find it. Keep going, but it's mind-boggling.
I mean, also you said this guy had success in the past, but I think he's way past his prime. I mean, 100% coaching, but he hasn't had a winning season in NFL or college since 2012.
I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah, I think this is a terrible hire. I think it could be an scapegoat. Just because they know they're going to be really bad next year. It's like, okay, we'll have this coach for next year, and then we'll start rebuilding next year.
Again? I mean, we'll do the same thing again we just did last year?
Yeah. Oh, no, like, they'll start rebuilding this year and just fire this guy. I don't know. But
it's a battle.
I think they're in a really bad spot as a franchise. They don't know if Deshaun Watson's ever going to come back. I think this is going to be hard for them. And I don't like this hire at all. I think it was a bad hire. They couldn't find anyone and they got nervous and just, okay, let's take this guy. I don't know. But I think this is a really bad hire. I gave it a D-.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went these last two. I kind of went a little
I gave it a C. I didn't give anybody in the D range. I gave him a little better than McDaniel, but like, I don't know.
I don't like that at all. McDaniel's a much better hire than this guy.
I just thought like there's a veteran guy. I think McDaniel's probably McDaniel's my worst.
If anything, I think they're going to get worse next year.
Who they bring in as OC? Like I have no idea. I can't think.
I don't know.
You can't get much worse. I think they win 3 to 4 games again. I do think he has some experience in the NFL, which helps. But hey, we'll see. McDaniel is my least favorite hire. I just didn't like the whole situation. He just didn't like him. Jer, close out the episode, or obviously I'll close it, but you start to close out the episode with Dennis Allen, New Orleans Saints. They went in-house. What do you got?
Yeah, so I think this is a very similar situation. Not that they couldn't find anyone. It's just that I think Dennis Allen's a scapegoat. I think they're $74 million under the cap this year. It's going to be a hard year. They have no quarterback really without Drew Brees. They have still found that. This guy Dennis Allen was 8-28 with the Raiders from 2012 to 14. I think this is just okay. We don't have cap this year. We're not really going to get better. I think if anything, that would probably be worse than last year. And I just think this is a year to kind of like get a year under the belt, maybe clear up some cap for the next year, and they're going to hire a new head coach after this year. I'm giving it a D-. I don't like this hire.
I gave Dennis Allen a C. I think C and C- are like my lowest grades. I didn't go into the D's, and I could have won to. Look, I don't hate this. I think Dennis Allen's a good defensive coordinator, and I think he's shown that he's a good defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think the Saints, now they couldn't find anyone, JR.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
I just don't think they could have went like there's nowhere to really go because they're in cap hell.
Yeah,
and you said they're in, what did you say,
75 million.
Yeah, they're in cap hell. So I think Dennis Allen
over the cap, not under the cap.
Yeah, I think we got it. I think Dennis Allen, I think he's a fine hire. Look, he wasn't great with the Raiders, but he knows how to coach a defense. And if he gets somewhat of a maybe Jameis back, I don't think he's gonna be horrible. And then they're talented enough. You have Alvin Kamara, maybe Michael Thomas comes back. There's some good solid players on that defense. And the Saints are always a solid franchise. Obviously losing Sean Payton is kind of a punch in the stomach. But I think Dennis Allen, I guess, did I say already what I give him? I'm giving him a
C-.
A C. I said a C.
C.
It's on the same par. I agree with you of Lovie Smith. I think it's a little better. Maybe I think
it's a little better. It's a little better. He had success with that defense.
Thinking about it now, maybe I should have gave Lovie Smith a C- if I'm kind of talking it out and explaining it. But in hindsight, doesn't really matter. C-, C. Yeah.
Yeah.
We both don't think there's no difference. It's not like I'm debating a C- to a B-. Like exactly. That's a huge difference. But Dennis Allen is C, nothing flashy. And I didn't love the head coaches this whole cycle. There wasn't anything that stood out to me.
Yeah, me neither.
But Jared, who was your highest graded coach?
I have the tie between Pederson and Daboll.
Okay. Mine was Daboll at an A-. So you think Jared thinks, guys, Brian Daboll and Doug Pederson are the two best hires this offseason. As a tie, I had Daboll as the best hire this offseason. Comment down below who you think is the best hire and maybe who you think is the worst hire. Guys, we appreciate you guys liking and commenting and subscribing. Jared, anything else you got to say before we say goodbye?
Yeah, please don't forget to check out the NBA trade deadline video. We talk about our favorite trades. We ranked grade the trades, especially the James Harden one. The top trades we'll grade, and we'll give you our like favorite trades. So yeah, don't forget to check that out, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Talking Sports PD, and please subscribe. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yes, guys, subscribe. And if you want to listen to Apple Podcasts, just Google Talking Sports Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Twitter, Instagram, and Apple Podcasts are always in the description. Make sure you guys comment, like, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Until next time, this was the Talking Sports Podcast with Peter DiBiasi and John Rocco Trumpbour. Have a good rest of your day, guys.